Let's get it. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Visual Disturbance. I'm your host, Brian Reese. Today, another perspective video. Get my perspective on a particular topic that I totally love. One of my favorite topics is, well, giants. Was Gilgamesh a pre-flood giant? Was he a pre-flood giant, folks? Comment below. What's your all's take on the Gilgamesh and the pre-flood topic? Was there giants in the earth in those days? A lot of people say that there's no giants. So they didn't exist. But before and beginning of this video, there's a question that you have to ask yourself. Will we believe the deception and lies that has been told into the academia world and into local gatherings and bodies and people that you come in contact with on a daily basis? And they'll question the biblical narrative and say that the giants didn't exist. But in the Old Testament, it is inundated with giant history and giant narrative. So, let's get on the topic today of Gilgamesh. But before we do, check out the links in the description. Check out my coffee website. Check out the new series right here, new series, Lost in Time, coming up here soon in the next few days on a Sunday night on Underground Church, FOJC. Me and Brother David Carrico are going to be doing another Cities Lost in Time. It's going to be a new series for Underground Church. That video, that particular site, guess where we're going, folks? Karnak, and we're going to go to Egypt. It's going to be interesting, folks. You know how I love the Megalithic and the ancient, all kinds of stuff, right? Antediluvian world. So like today, we're going to be talking about pre-flood. Also, check out my Visual Disturbance PO Box 324, Waco, Kentucky 40385. I really would appreciate it. If you just check it out. Check the link. All the stuff in the bottom. The coffee, the Instagram, the Twitter, YouTube, subscribe, hit that like button, Facebook, all the above. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, folks, welcome to another program here. I hope everybody enjoys it. We're going to be talking about Gilgamesh. We're going to be talking about giants in the pre-flood antediluvian world. And I'll give you my perspective on this video. Let's get into it. Also, check out my Nephilim mug. Just popped up there. Chasing them Nephilim. So tonight we are going to be chasing those Nephilim. Thank y'all for the love and support. And thank you so much for being part of the Visual Disturbance community. Let's get into it, folks.
In our previous video, we presented a hypothesis, a theory believed by many, one of a now lost or possibly hidden race of ancient giants. Surprisingly, however,
whoa. Let me do a double take on that. Real quick, that Book of Giants there. It was interesting, just those top 10 lists there. I didn't pause it quick enough for the reaction of the video. But hey, folks, Kentucky wasn't on the list. But hey, this old boy from Kentucky, you know, I know a thing or two, I know a place or two, I know maybe 4 or 5 places that I have my eyes on, so to speak. That could particularly be a place where an ancient site, where a mound, particular mound, and there could be one of these 15-footer, could be one of these 20-footers. Could there be? Would there be? I guess we'll have to find out in the Visual Disturbance world. Hopefully one day we'll get that opportunity to be able to do some kind of excavation and actually crack these things open. Crack them open and see what happens. But let's get into it, folks. Look at these giant teeth on the TV here. Just can't make this stuff up. Let's get into it.
recently, although China is seen as an infamously secretive country, with many tombs and ancient pyramids of gargantuan proportions rarely aerial photographed, let alone explored, it seems that they have, at last, stolen the archaeological world stage, with the announcement of a discovery which we may relish, but those whom these remains rest just beyond the clutches of, we would presume rather get a hold of themselves to study, and then store away in hidden archives, far.
Graveyard of Giants found in China. There's always this 5,000 year mark that I keep finding in the in my studies and in the endeavors I've been going on as far as my research, many of 5,000-year-old skeletons, right? So it's interesting, this particular topic, this particular article here says skeletons measured at 5'9". So a lot of people are like, Brian, that's not even gigantic. It says Neolithic humans, right? 5'9", right? The girth, the width of the being, the width. People forget that. See, and it says 5'9" or longer, but we're talking their stature, their shoulders would be so long, and so with the width of them would be like NFL linebacker would like, like panic mode, like here comes a 5'9", 1,000-pound gigantic boulder coming at me pretty much. And just want to explain that, folks, because a lot of people are like, oh, it says 5'9". They're not gigantic. They're not tall. Well, they put it in the movies, folks. They put it in the movies. Let's continue on.
From public view, an ongoing effort we have personally read of, dating back to the early 1900s. An ancient graveyard, complete with over 500 giant human remains, has not only been accidentally discovered, but publicly exhumed, and most crucial of all, photographed for all the world to see within China.
Here's one thing, folks, real quick to just comment on this. Check this out. So, why in the world is it displayed? And why here in America we discredit the whole topic alone, say it never existed? But here we are in China, we're talking about this particular place, and they act like it doesn't exist. So, makes you go, huh? Like, why would there be such a big cover-up? Why is there such a big cover-up? And then, why is there a big cover-up with this? But they're freely trying to fight for the UFO phenomenon. Just think about that one for a minute, folks. Let that resonate in your mind. Let's continue on with the video.
China. Could this be a retaliatory move with other motives at play? If our previously mentioned theory is true, it would enable man to explain the inexplicably, seemingly impossible size of many of the world's megaliths, and indeed still standing megalithic structures of the world. How a pyramidal, treasury, and many other ancient architectures, lintels, and top stones, often weighing many hundreds of tons, were not only transported from quarries many hundreds of miles, but placed aloft many meters with seeming ease. Furthermore, we have in the past not only postulated and have also presented reams of witness testimony and photographic corroboration, still to be found in newspaper archives across the West.
Stargate. Talked about in the last video I just did not too long ago, a few days back. Stargate. Stonehenge, all that stuff, the coordination with the ley lines, everything to do with, even if you went to Spain, there's some kind of ancient megalithic power source network of things that work together in some kind of ancient angelic manner, and they was teaching humans how to perform these things. Remember, I made a comment, it almost looked like the Enterprise from Star Trek. Let's get into it some more.
Western world, describing these finds, but also the Smithsonian's efficiency in not only dealing with the matter, but disappearance of any further reporting, thus exploration. This also supporting the reason for lost pieces of the puzzle, which is inhibiting us from unlocking the secrets to these sites' construction. Perhaps we may never know the true motivations for such a controversial exposure in China, but nonetheless, the resulting fallout of proof presented for our community is a step closer to the truth, the untangling of a tired and tangled web of lies in which many have weaved. For at the bottom of Pandora's box, there is always hope.
Well, folks,
Many attribute.
I'll pause it here with Gilgamesh up there on the screen. Isn't it interesting that you can go everywhere? You can go all kinds of different locations all over this earth, this realm that we live in. And it makes one ponder. Like, and then the whole concept, it's like, how do you just trust everything that is being told to you, but the evidence is like laid out there on a platter, like literally the buffet line. There was giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God, came into the daughters of men, they bore giants. The Gilbarim, the giants of old, the mighty men of renown. Biblical narrative. And people still discredit to this day. Wow. The buffet line. The buffet line of information, artifacts, all that good stuff. Big axes, big machines. Nothing that man could do today could even... There's nothing. There's nothing we can do to replicate the technology. There's nothing to be able to do to lift up these big stone walls, the big stone blocks. Nothing. Nothing. There's no way. We can't. Our bodies are too fragile. I'm just going to keep on. I could. This is one of my. I could talk all night on this one. Let's get into it.
Did the legend surrounding the great king of Uruk and many of the city's written attributes to mythology. Uruk is said to have become famous as the capital city of the king Gilgamesh, the ancient ruler and hero of the Epic of Gilgamesh. It is believed that Uruk was the biblical Erech from Genesis 10:10.
Just want to pause right there, folks. Let's make sure that I don't say one term, but there's a politician out there. I'm not going to say her name, but she inquired about these particular people, these beings, Gilgamesh, the Nephilim. There was an old email just recently that just came out a couple years ago. I remember it very well. News broke out. The title was, Where the Nephilim Was Buried in Gilgamesh's Body, folks. I'm not going to inquire about who they was and who people was involved with that. But let's just say the powers that be know exactly where these locations are of these beings. And they're doing some nefarious things, which I cannot talk about on this program. But, wait, there's more. So Gilgamesh supposedly was found not too long ago, after those emails released. Supposedly, I remember getting that information about October the 20th, like 2021, if I'm not mistaken. 2020, it might have been 2020, 2020, 2021. But anyways, they was inquiring about Gilgamesh's body a long time ago, and then all of a sudden these pictures surface up, and here in a minute, we're showing this video, the so-called evidence of Gilgamesh's body, supposedly. So let's get back into this video.
Second city founded by Nimrod in Shinar. The Epic of Gilgamesh, written by a Middle Eastern scholar 2,500 years before the birth of Christ, commemorates the life of the ruler of the city of Uruk, from which Iraq gets its name. In 2003, just prior to the Iraq invasion which toppled Hussein, astonishing discoveries were being made in Iraq, culminating in one of the most extraordinary claims anywhere for centuries, a claim which American forces have been strongly accused of confiscating, subsequently becoming the prime suspect as the driving force behind a complete suppression of these astonishing discoveries within the country. In April of 2003, Jörg Fassbinder of the Bavarian Department of Historical Monuments in Munich told the BBC's World Services Science and Action program, quote, "I don't want to say definitively that it was the grave of King Gilgamesh, but it..."
Real quick, folks, the whole the Iraq topic, we all know what happened. Well, if you watch the Visual Disturbance channel, the early 2000s, right, it was before 2003, there was a Kandahar giant, supposedly. The Kandahar giant story. There's a video I did over a year ago on the Visual Disturbance channel, location of the Kandahar giant. Isn't that interesting, folks? This was reported in 2003 that we have a Gilgamesh's body. And I'm gonna comment on a bunch of other stuff about this, about the museum in Iraq and whatnot. But let's get into it. Let's get back in the video.
Looks very similar to that described in the epic. We found just outside the city, an area in the middle of the former Euphrates River, the remains of such a building which could be interpreted as a burial, Mr. Fassbinder said. In the book, Gilgamesh is described as having been buried under the Euphrates. He said the amazing discovery of the ancient city under the Iraqi desert had been made possible by modern technology.
Real quick, folks, isn't it kind of interesting? The Euphrates River is drying up now. Isn't that interesting? Done a couple videos on that and talked about it on many different platforms and different shows. Euphrates River's drying up. Isn't that kind of interesting? Is there a connection? Comment below. What do you guys think?
The most surprising thing was that we found structures already described by Gilgamesh, Mr. Fassbinder stated.
Check this out, folks. Just check this out for a minute. So, 5th ruler of the first post-Diluvian dynasty of Uruk, great builder of temples and cities, restored Uruk after the flood. Known as a great judge, prayers addressed to him. 2/3 God, 1/3 human being. Huh. How'd you figure that out, right? Hello. His mother was a goddess, his father a mortal king of Uruk. Where'd they come from? Where'd they come from? How'd they get them humans? How'd they get them Sephite boys? How'd they get them Sephite boys to be able to do 2/3 God and 1/3 human being? I'm talking about the Sephite theory, folks. Just can't make this stuff up. So, like I said earlier in this video, isn't it interesting that the UFO phenomenon is gaining ground all over the place? But it's almost like we can't even process what happened back in the Genesis narrative when the sons of God came into the daughters of men and they took the daughters of man and bore giants. And there was a hybridization. There was something there that changed, and then they had giants in the earth. So this is where you get this from, this information. But why in the world? Why in the world is this the biggest cover-up? Why? Why is it a huge cover-up? I can go on a big rant about this. Let's continue on.
We covered more than 100 hectares. We found garden structures and field structures as described in the epic, and we found Babylonian houses. Here, predictably, is where the story goes silent. Due to conflict within the country, it was largely believed the excavations had been halted. However, it seems that the discovery of King Gilgamesh may not have been made in isolation. This footage was supposedly leaked to numerous places across the internet and has largely been put down as authentic footage of the find. Shortly.
Comment below, do you think it's fake or authentic? Or do you think it's just a prop? Comment below, because I'm still on the fence. This popped back up just last year all over the internet. I'm not buying everything. I don't buy everything. I don't buy into everything. I'm not gullible. So, hey, comment below what you think. What you guys think?
After this was taken, reports state that American forces moved in and seized the find. Why do the powers that be see fit to suppress such discoveries? The very real tombs of characters long thought to have been mythical, Osiris being but one example among many which have undoubtedly been hidden from the public. Maybe some clues to why his tomb has been hidden lay within the epic and the immense powers Gilgamesh was said to have possessed. He was the 5th king of Uruk, and his power was so mighty, many believe that the stories surrounding him are just myths that were built around his seemingly superhuman strength and endurance. However, serious scholars concluded that the story of Gilgamesh was nothing more than a fairy tale due to the astonishing story. In the epic, the great king is thought to be too proud and arrogant by the gods, and so they decide to teach him a lesson, sending the wild man, Enkidu, to humble him. Enkidu and Gilgamesh, after a fierce battle in which neither are bested, become friends and embark on adventures together. When Enkidu is struck with death, Gilgamesh falls into a deep grief and, recognizing his own mortality through the death of his friend.
Just throw us out here, it's not for this video, but hey, there's such thing as the wild men in the Bigfoot community, the cryptic creatures, hello! There's something to ponder on for a little bit, and let that rattle in your mind that there's some type of deception going on here, folks. Some big deception. But what is it? How do we pull back the onion and understand our reality and their past history? I could go on a big rant, folks. Welcome to Visual Disturbance. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get back into it.
And questions the meaning of life and the value of human accomplishment in the face of ultimate extinction. Casting away all his old vanity and pride, Gilgamesh sets out on a quest to find the meaning of life and, finally, some way of defeating death. In doing so, he becomes the first epic hero in world literature. The grief of Gilgamesh and the questions his friend's death evoke resonate with every human being who has wrestled with the meaning of life in the face of death. Is this leaked footage of the tomb of Gilgamesh? Regardless of its authenticity, why all the secrecy? Are we, as a species, not capable of being presented with things which test our core beliefs without erupting into chaos? It seems for now, we may have to wait to find out.
Real quick, folks, I have to comment on this. I'll give you my perspective. Nimrod, a.k.a. Gilgamesh. Let's just throw it out there, folks. Gilgamesh, a.k.a. Nimrod. Let's just throw it out here, folks. Nimrod became a mighty man of old. He became a mighty man of old. And you always have that lion. He's always carrying that lion or that buffalo. I've seen all kinds of depictions. He became a mighty man of old. Just like the video was saying just a second ago, talking about immortality. Gilbarim. Altering. Think about it. Becoming something of a God-man. Like God-like powers. Doing something that would change him to become a mighty hunter. A mighty man of old with superhuman strength, right? Wow. Let's get into this rest of the video.
In one of the world's most war-torn areas, there lies what could quite possibly be one of the most important clues in regards to the construction of ancient structures. Just northwest of Aleppo in Syria rest the very ancient ruins of what is known as Dara Temple. Once completely buried in the sand, subsequently overlooked by the modern world, it is now known to be a literal representation of the Temple of Solomon, built at the same time on an artificial base, placed on the highest land in the area. The temple also shared a similar floor plan, entry porch supported by 2 columns, a main sanctuary divided between an antechamber and a main chamber, and an elevated shrine behind a partition. In 1955, the site gained the attention of numerous scholars from across the world.
Check it out, folks. There's that lion again. Comment below. There's always the lion. I mentioned in the last video I did with the pre-flood civilization. Lion-like men of Moab. Is there a little Nephilim connection? Is there a pre-flood? Is there a Gilgamesh giant connection, folks? There's always the lion. Isn't that interesting? Just like India. There's all over. It's inundated everywhere.
When a large basalt lion was accidentally unearthed, subsequently leading to a full excavation in 1980. By 1985, the entire complex was recognized as extremely significant in ancient times as a place of worship. Much of the structure still possesses evidence of its past grandeur. Various reliefs survive that dot the structure, which depict numerous animals. The interior would have been encrusted in hundreds of finely carved reliefs depicting lions, cherubs, mythical creatures, mountain gods, and ornate geometric designs. But what is surely the most interesting of remaining features is that of a pair of giant footprints, placed in alignment with an altar in the center of the temple, as if—
Just throw it out here, a little speculation, a little conspiracy theory going down the rabbit hole together, folks. You know, Alice in Wonderland narrative here. Just think about it for a minute. Just think about it. 2 feet, perfectly alignment. We've seen this with things that says stand here and look up, right? Like put your feet here, place your feet. If you're like weighing yourself, or if there's like a technological advancement to scan your body to interact with the technology, with the video game or whatever, it'll say stand here. Or like, you know, like I remember playing some old golfing games, arcade games and stuff. It says stand here. Your platform is here. That's how I think, folks. Welcome to Visual Disturbance. This is a platform. Look at that guy's foot. Size 10, 10 and a half. we got us about a 30 size or a 30 and a half size or 40 size foot size here. They just don't make tennis shoes like that. If you know, our lovely tennis shoe shops. You know what I'm saying, folks? Just saying platform, looking up. What is it? I'm just going on that. I'm just in that mode today. But yeah, platform. It's not like they're walking. It's stationary. Like stand here, look up. Just saying, folks. Probably another Stargate. Whatever. Let's get it.
They were left as an instruction used by beings who would have been around 60 feet tall. Interestingly, no one really knows who built the temple, and it has been a heated debate for many years. Why would a builder of average size decide to create a positional engraving for worship in the scale of a giant? Are these footprints an obvious clue to the size of the original builders of such structures? It would certainly make ancient buildings, such as the pyramids, a lot easier to explain. A being of 60 feet in height.
And if you looked real quick, there was 2 and there was 1. There was 2 and there was 1. It's almost like the feet was stationary, then there was 1, and there was that platform. Is it Ancient Stargate? Comment below. There could be a lot of comments in this video, right? Is there going to be a lot of video? Or a lot of video left behind? Is there going to be a lot of comments? Just comment below, folks.
It would be immensely strong and clearly capable of carving the stones we are now completely perplexed by, such as the 12-sided stone in Cusco, Peru, among countless other examples of seemingly impossible architecture. Maybe in the future, the footprints will become an extremely important artifact in historical understanding.
The awe-inspiring ancient city of Hegra, also known as Madain Saleh, close sister of the equally astonishing and cinematically famous ancient site of Petra, is now...
Real quick before we get into Hegra here, this ancient city. Remember, platform, observing, and then something shows up. Just throwing that out there, folks. There's a certain place out in Switzerland. There's a place out there that has a collider. That's all I'm going to say. They have a 3-story printer. 3-story printer. Remember the last video we did, folks? We're talking about the 3D printing from an aerial view. That facility has a 3-story printer. What is going on there? So I'm just throwing it out there, folks. 3 stories high. Printing out something nefarious, whatever's going on. Something that we supposedly can't comprehend. But I think, in my opinion, like the site with the ancient city of Hegra, all these megalithic sites, the platform, everything, Stargates, they've collaborated this all into some one big box of just, I guess they would call it as a advancement for mankind, and they're replicating and trying to insinuate that they've become superior knowledge, superior authority, superior knowledge, but they don't know, like at the beginning of this video, Pandora's box. They don't want to open it up, but they're doing it because they want that immortality. They want that Gilbarim. They want that Nimrod Gilgamesh. They want that stature. They want that stature. And what will they do to achieve that? What would they go through to achieve it? That's a question. Comment below. A lot of comment below tonight. Let's get back into this city.
Finally open to the public, able to go and investigate for themselves. We have covered this site, and indeed the gigantic scale of the rock-cut temples, the claimed tombs, and tall doorways to enter these sites. Furthermore, we have covered uncanny similarities found upon rare, unfinished areas of these once astonishingly precisely cut.
One more time, folks. No joke. I referenced in the last one. Peru, the 3 windows. Can't make this stuff up, folks. Peru, on Transformer film. Petra, Transformer film. A bit. It's like maybe 8 years ago or something. They've made so many different videos or movies on that. Petra was on the Transformers too, and the Transformers would actually walk into here, and Bumblebee, all those characters they look like little small people. This door is massive in Petra here. Massive. Guess what, folks? Evidence of a 3D printing. It almost looks looks like a 3D printer, like with something we use here on a smaller scale. But to cut it out in this granite, to cut it out in this rock and make this advanced, beautiful, I mean, it's literally a marvelous endeavor. Nobody could pull this off. Nobody. Nobody in today's day. Nobody. But remember what I said, a facility that had a 3-story printer. Wonder what they would need a 3-story printer for in a scientific facility where the collider is way down underneath the ground, 300 feet, mind you. Huh. Isn't that interesting? Can't make this stuff up.
Solid rock ruins. In addition to the enormous scale of the stone-cut buildings and the absence of doorsteps, which would have enabled the now average-sized human claimed as having created them, no chance of entering them with ease. This giving credence to the many theories pertaining to these gigantic structures, along with their gigantic scales and their enormous megalithic counterparts found at other sites, linked to by cutting marks previously mentioned, were instead constructed by an ancient, now lost race, far larger than any of today, one capable of these incredible ancient feats. Could these structures have instead of, as so many, as indeed we have postulated, not actually built by ancient man, but were actually made by ancient giants? Not only with the muscular ability to have once lifted such enormous stones into position, such as that of the enormous megalithic stones incorporated into the Great Pyramids of Giza, found within the temples of Baalbek, Gornia Shoria, but also almost globally? Could this explain how they were once able to liberate these giant stones from the quarries and bedrocks selected almost many miles from where they were eventually placed with seeming ease? How they were somehow transported, enormous stones high atop mountains, assembling them into the remarkably precise laid polygonal masonry that now drenches the tops of Peruvian peaks? How they once raised the ancient obelisk of Aswan? But I digress. Many have now conceded that the methodology of the Great Pyramids of Giza construction continues to be an enigma in regards to a modern
This is Peru, folks, like we talked about in the last program we did.
explanation as to how the modern man accomplished such feats. Could this mystery be linked to the cover-up in which many have claimed, and we ourselves encountered, in regard to the remains of this possibly lost civilization, smothered by the Smithsonian, one that we would now perceive as ancient giants? It is a hypothesis which would indeed be a fitting explanation for these mysteries, and a cover-up, the stifling of a reason for their continued inexplicability to modern explanation. It is a theory which we find incredibly intriguing.
Folks, I would say it's intriguing, absolutely. Just can't make this stuff up. Comment below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Folks, the giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, we're talking about the flood of Noah. And we're in those days of the flood of Noah, after the flood of Noah. We're in those days, folks. What's going on? What happened to pull off these endeavors, just like this video? I'll give you my perspective over the whole thing. Nimrod, Gilgamesh, more than likely the same individual. Time change, name change all throughout time. Megalithic structures, all these different things that's been formed and been made. Stone precision, the lines and everything just miraculously, the stone being heated up to be able to form it. The other one, you can't even put a piece of paper through them in Peru, all these different locations. Petra, all these different places. There's nothing like the diagram there with the pyramid and the old, modern day cranes pulling off Endeavor. It would cost billions and billions and billions of dollars to pull off what was in Giza. Let's just face the facts, folks. It would take an Endeavor abundance of money, probably $1 trillion, to pull off all 3 pyramids like in Giza. But yeah, folks, there was giants in the earth in those days, and I believe, my opinion, pre-flood giants, pre-flood Gilgamesh was pre-flood. I believe so. All these structures, everything this video was talking about, all done pre-flood. And today, modern man will just marvel at it. They don't even know how to even touch crumbs or dust of the information that was being done pre-flood, antediluvian realm. Nobody can replicate it, folks. But yeah, folks, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Hope you enjoyed this video. That pretty much does it for the Was Gilgamesh a pre-flood giant? Folks, I believe he was a pre-flood giant. And we're going to get back into this later on. I'll probably get back on to the Kandahar giant. We'll do another video on Kandahar. But keep an eye out for all that. I hope y'all enjoyed this, me giving it my perspective on these videos. I really enjoy these. Hope everybody loved it too. And check out, like I said earlier, the bottom left-hand corner is going to be the link in the description. Check out our Cities Lost in Time series on FLJC Underground Church. We're going to go to Egypt. Karnak. We're going to Karnak. Second episode, me and Brother Dave are really excited about it. So check it out. Thank you all for y'all's time. I appreciate everybody. Be blessed. Have a great day. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. It helps with the algorithm. And I really appreciate all you all. And thank you so much for the love and support. I really mean that. Brian Reese, Visual Disturbance, I am out.